So here is another discussion that took place in class that I want to give you an overview of. This was when we were trying to decide what information to store about each game. So in our list, you saw, let me open one here. So in the list, what we are displaying here, this is what we want to achieve. So we need to come up with a storage model. What are the data points about each game that we are going to store? So that's where this comes in. It's a sample game here in which there are 3 x's in the diagonal and x has won the game. So we determine that in this list, we are displaying who won the game. So obviously it would be good if we can store that information. So that's one thing we decide. And one of the things we saw in the demo was that we want to be able to recreate all the games. So we need to know the sequence of the moves as they were played, so we can show them. Just knowing the final state is not enough. This is a simple game. It really doesn't matter much, but if it was some other game, something else where the history, the sequence was important, you would need to store it. And we'll treat it like this here. So which X was placed first, which O, that kind of stuff. So we need to know moves played in which order, and that is to be able to recreate the game. You see, we're not displaying it here in the list. We are only displaying who won the game and when, at what time or date. These are all played today. That's why there is no, otherwise it would show a date and a time. So that's what we determined, 3 things: who won the game, what moves were played, and what was the timestamp when it was played. Then the question comes, how are we going to store it? And in both cases, in both the apps, iOS and Android, we are going to use preferences or defaults. In iOS, they're called user defaults. These are key value pairs that you can store and retrieve. So that is what we'll use, and it's a mechanism for us to learn how to work with those user defaults. In Android, it's called shared preferences. Same thing, basically identical in functionality, purpose. So that's what we'll do. And we need, as I said, there are key value pairs. So what we'll do is we'll say, okay, for each game, we will number the game, and then we'll create these keys. So who won, and then append an integer, which is the game number, who won 1, moves 1, timestamp 1. And these become our keys. For the second game, it will be the same, these alphabets followed by the game number 2, like this. So these are the keys we'll store each game. And on top of them, we will store number of games, total number of games played. So in the database, you will have a variable called number of games played. So if that number is 5, then you know that you have to retrieve data for 5 games. Who won 1, moves 1, timestamp 1, and then who won 2, moves 2, timestamp 2, like this up to 5. That's how, once you retrieve all of that data, like here there are 4 games, so those four data for the 4 games we need to be able to build this table. And not only that, to be able to play the game, replay, recreate, to show the action replay. So this is how we will be doing the persistence, and this is what went on in the discussion using the Blackboard.